Good evening. Welcome to the West Seneca School Board meeting. We will have two parts to this meeting. First, we will have the budget hearing that our finance department will present with Mr. Bystrak. So, Mr. Bystrak, would you like to introduce all of the people that you will be speaking with?
Sure. I'm actually going to kind of take the lead on this one, but it's going to be Mrs. Lewandowski and Mr. Thiel. They head up our business office. You can't see them on camera right now, but if you're in the room. I can go ahead and get started. Do we need to start the pledge or anything first, or just to?
That's right. Let's have the pledge.
Okay.
Mrs. Bussey, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I became very distracted from this beautiful weather.
Yeah, it's supposed to be raining all day today. We were just discussing that. It's not. So I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. Actually, it's two separate board meetings tonight that we're going to have. One of them is the budget hearing, which some of this information actually you're probably very familiar with, and there's some required documents that we have to have. All of this will be available on the website, and we are in the process of mailing out some pamphlets, brochures that basically kind of talk a little bit about this information as well. So if anybody has any questions along the way, please stop me. I'm going to, just for the sake of efficiency, I'm going to be the one really to do the presentation, but Mrs. Lewandowski and Mr. Thiel can certainly answer any more specific questions as we move along. So, all right. So just to get things started, to kind of cut to the chase a little bit here, we are starting off here with proposition number 1, which really is just the budget itself. And if I'm getting feedback here, let me know. It sounds like there might be a little feedback coming from my microphone. I can always try to swap out if I need to. But the proposed budget that we have, that was adopted by the board, but now obviously has to be voted on by the taxpayers, is for $134,641,980. And I'm saying this right now, but we'll kind of get into a little bit more detail. That does not reflect any anticipation. We're not anticipating that we're going to have to raise taxes, or tax rate, I should say. So, at this point, and we'll talk more about that as the presentation progresses, but that would reflect a 0% increase in the tax rate from the school district. So just kind of moving on to our next page here. So looking at that budget there, last year you can see where we were at. So there is a 3.92% increase in the overall spending. We can't control. There's certain expenses, contractual expenses and whatnot. Things cost more every year. So we do have to have an increase in our overall budget, but we will be using utilizing some of our reserves or fund balance and some of the additional federal money and aid that we're going to be receiving to help absorb some of the cost of that. So this is one of those, I mentioned there's some required documents. I want everybody to read this and get back to me. There's quite a bit up there on the page. But basically it's a 3-part budget that we have to be able to put up there for everyone to be able to see. And as you'll notice, program accounts for the biggest chunk of money that we have. So obviously within the, there's general support and then there's your capital expenses. Obviously the program represents, basically what you see in taking place in our classrooms. So, and, obviously there's been some challenges with the pandemic, but we worked very hard to preserve our program and make sure that, we still have a full host of offerings. I know there was conversation, around, regionally and throughout the nation of having to cut back and scale back on course offerings because of the pandemic, and I'm proud to say that we did not. We maintained, obviously, our 5 days a week of instruction, but also a full host of elective offerings at the high school level, and just made sure we had a robust program to offer for all. So we always have to talk about this. A contingent budget, basically, if the budget does not pass, the impact essentially would be that we would have to pull about $430,000 off, and it would come in the form of equipment, essentially. So if it has to do with health and safety or special education, that doesn't come off. But this is about what the impact would be if the budget did not pass. So again, another required document here. This is our property tax report card for 21-22. So I know it's very small print up there, but what you have in front of you, basically you can see that it does kind of compare this year to last year on the top, just in terms of some of our expenditures, things like our budget, our enrollment. On the bottom, it outlines our reserves that we have, like our capital reserve for our buses, our workers' comp, unemployment insurance, essentially, which was all funded, tax certiorari, things like that, and just does comparisons from one year to the next. All right, so the next one, our property tax levy cap. So for 21-22, this is what we're looking at here. So just to, something to take a look here. So, we could be, and again, this goes back to the 0% that we're looking at here. We could be our property tax levy could be as much as 66.5 million. We're looking at just over 64 million. So that's about $1.8 million that we are choosing not to, increase the tax levy by in the coming year. So, and obviously we're looking at the tax cap. People always look right to the bottom there. Do you plan to override the tax cap? We do not. So there's no anticipation of it. We're not planning to override the tax cap this year. If anybody has any questions along the way too, please let me know. So taking a look here, again, you'll see a lot of zeros across there as well for the projected tax increases. This is kind of what would happen if nothing changed at the local, any of those 4 towns, basically. So, things that could change, a town could choose to reassess, they could change the equalization rate, or there could be new exemptions, but as of right now, and I'm trying to stress this a little bit, nothing that this district is doing is going to increase the tax levy for our taxpayers, so just to put that. So I can't speak for what might happen in any of the 4 towns that comprise our district, So again, the tax impact on an average home, again, you're looking, at your zeros there for estimated tax increases, whether you're talking about a senior star or basic star. So the individual tax impact really does depend on the town within which somebody resides. Yeah.
How much of a mood are you in to really break this down for someone like me? So if you go back and really dumb it down for me. You said anything we're going to do isn't going to raise the taxes. Like, we have no control over the assessments of the towns.
No, we don't. Yeah.
So if a town's changing how they assess the value of a home, that's how their taxes are figured out, right? But we don't control any of that.
No, we don't control that. So this
Okay.
is really just our tax levy. We're choosing not to pass along to increase the amount of taxes that we're levying on our
So
taxpayers.
it's probably not a great question just to be asking off the cuff, but does every citizen of the West Seneca School District that pays taxes pay the same percentage, or does every town have a different way of calculating?
Towns have different equalization rates.
Okay,
so
that's what I was
yes.
wondering. Okay.
Yeah, so if you live in Orchard Park, it might look different than if you live in Chickdawag or Hamburg or West Seneca, for that
Okay.
matter.
So maybe not appropriate today, but at some point, maybe the powers that be maybe we could talk about that at some point, like what that is, like, even if it's just to me, because I sometimes have a hard time following that. But we're choosing not to raise taxes.
Correct.
But if a home is valued at double what it was last year, their taxes will go up.
Yep, they reassess if the town
because
chooses to
it-
reassess.
Because of a reassessment.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
I apologize.
No, that's a great question,
I see
and-
this stuff all the time, like,
It's because we have students in different towns.
yes, and then the towns control
We have
their.
Lackawanna, we have some from, we do have some in Lackawanna.
So
We have some in, of course, Chichewag.
the towns collect the tax and then
Orchard Park and
pay it to our district.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I was just trying to figure out how that, we're not sending out the bills and we're not collecting. The towns do that.
No. Actually, Mrs. Lewandowski goes around door to door, and
I know that was a question that probably weren't prepared for, but
no, they're good questions.
I've
And
been here long enough and I'm thinking like, we
there's
don't-
so many nuances and ins and outs to the whole process. Honestly, this is if you're struggling to maybe kind of get your head around some of it, to be honest with you, that's because everybody is. This is not simple stuff. There's just so many moving pieces that go along with this, and just trying to present it in the most digestible ways that the district is choosing not to increase. We're not doing anything to increase taxes at this point. Doesn't mean that our budget doesn't have to go up. As I said, we still have costs that go up.
Completely got it. Yeah.
We're just using some other sources of revenue to be able to absorb that for this year.
I just hear, a couple different people, different towns, and my taxes are going up because my house is getting reasons. That has nothing to do with what we do. We're just trying
Correct.
to keep it a 0% increase.
Correct.
Okay.
You
Thank
got it. Sure,
Thank you.
no problem. Yeah.
They have to take their arguments to their own town people
Yes.
about the assessments,
Yeah.
It's
That's,
a little thing.
okay, that's kind of what I was wondering. Like, we're not the collectors, we don't figure it out. We just send out what we want collected. Or
Yeah.
not what we want collected.
If
but
we choose, if we're choosing to go for an increase, yes, that's
Yeah.
what we would communicate.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Sure. So just going again, I know there's a lot of very small print on there, but this just kind of gives you a snapshot. Again, it's all on our website, but just looking at the total, this is like, for instance, right down that second one down there, that's the 4 towns combined essentially. So all 4 towns combined, the third one down, gives you the total equalized value of all the exemptions the equalized value of the taxing jurisdiction. Just take a look here. And again, this is one of those things that we're required to put up there. So looking at the payments in lieu of taxes down at the bottom there, at $258,000, exempted, 24.95%. So again, just another one of our required documents that we do have to include in this. So again, another required document, you look at the New York State school report card. So you might be asking, why is this data so old up there? It's the summary from 18-19, which really reflects 17-18 numbers, but that's the newest information, that's the most up to date. Every year we kind of have this scenario where you're a few years back there. So, but it does kind of give you a snapshot of how we spend versus what other districts, whether all districts in the state or what they call similar size districts. So if you look there, I always kind of draw your attention to the bottom right there where they talk about, we spend about $17,700 per student, similar district across the state at about $23,500 or $23,500, and then all school districts would be at about $25,800. So we do spend less than your average district or districts that are comparable in size to ours per student. So and it's just a matter of just really being efficient. So. The next page gets into specifically, this is another required document, gets into special education classification rates. So to to bring it down, a couple of things to point out. So if you look at us compared to the whole state, we're just a little below the average classification rate. If you look at similar sized districts, we're a little above. So we're at 14.1% in terms of our special education classification rate. And remember, special education classification could be anything from a student receiving a speech service, once a week, all the way to a student being in a fully self-contained classroom setting or an out-of-district placement. So it really covers a wide gamut of classifications.
Well, Matt, we have a very good special ed program, and that's why a lot of people move into our
Correct.
district because of that. So that's why we've always been higher.
We have a lot of offerings, and one of the things, just to your point, Mary, that I'd want to point out too, is that we have if you kind of look at that chart on top, we really do have a lot of kids that we work very hard to integrate into programs. It's not all just pull out, self-contained. So that's, you kind of talks about like how the majority of their time, how do they spend it? Are they in integrated settings or are they in pull-out settings? We try to integrate as much as possible. Even if you look at a class, we have a student that might have a, somewhat profound level of a disability, you look for, okay, well, can they take a Spanish class? All right, well, let's try that. Or can they take, we try to create opportunities, just experiential opportunities for kids for exposure purposes.
Right. And that's why they move into our district, because that fight those parents fought that for a long time to get their children to be able to integrate into classrooms. So,
Mary, it's something I'm really proud of too. So I know we talk about it a lot, but it's something I feel very strongly about as well. So we're kind of getting into the propositions now, individually speaking. So this is the bus reserve. This is always one of the more popular propositions, it seems like. But we're looking to be able to. So we have reserves. They were on a previous page. So basically, they're just savings accounts that we have. So these are beneficial to us because it means that this is going to have no tax impact because we've been kind of saving this money in anticipation of having to purchase buses. So we're looking to spend $551,000 to buy 6 buses, 3 full-size 65-passenger buses at $118,200 apiece, and then 3 30-passenger buses at $65,500 apiece. So we just buses. I think the average, and I know Mrs. O'Grady could speak to this better than I could, our director of transportation, but I think we get about 10 years lifespan out of these, and there's a lot of they have to be right up to spec and right obviously in good working order. So it's just a replacement cycle that we have, that it's an ongoing basis. So that's that proposition. Again, this is not going to result in a tax increase, and for us, taking money out of this reserve never does result. Any of the reserves does not result in a tax increase, but we do have to have permission from the public to be able to make an expenditure like this. So, and actually this ties in nicely to the next one. It's every 10 years if we want to have this, it's actually technically a capital reserve, but it's specific to transportation. If we want to continue with this, we have to get public approval, our community's approval to be able to continue. So we are seeking to be able to extend this reserve for another 10 years. So, and I think it's a very good investment, honestly, or good use of resources. Again, it helps us to keep from having to increase taxes. So it really does mitigate some tax increases. And the next one actually is Capital Reserve Fund. So we don't currently have one of these. This isn't an extension, this is a creation. This is actually a 15-year cycle that this would be on, but given that we've resumed doing some more capital work, we want to essentially do the same thing that we're doing for our transportation department. So we want to make sure that we have money that we can set aside every year, whatever we can put aside to be able to help defray the cost of any taxes, any tax increases that we might have. So, and just like the transportation reserve, if we want to make an expenditure from this, we do have to get public permission. It would be another a ballot item, basically, or ballot number. So, I mean, like for instance, next year if we want, let's say we create this, put some money in. Next year, if we wanted to pull some money out to spend on this, we would have to go once again seek public permission to be able to do that. But again, I think it's very beneficial for us because it helps us to keep our tax rates level.
This is something recently that was passed in Albany.
Yeah,
that
correct.
Districts can do this.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it's definitely a benefit to us, in my opinion, to be able to do this.
And
So,
cooperative, working with BOCES and stuff, and that helps save.
Oh, absolutely.
Costs.
Yep. So that's it. Any questions or comments, thoughts?
When I look at the Board of Education budget, we went down considerably in our proposed budget. Is that just our New York State School Board?
That played a part. Actually, you're not the first person to notice that. Diane and Larry actually mentioned that when we were looking at this last week too. So
Okay.
it was the NISBA membership. Janet or Will, do you recall what some of the other reasons for that? I know last year I had a substantial equipment budget or furniture budget.
Okay.
So that's another area too. We had set aside, we needed to upgrade the furniture last year.
Conferences too, I think, were part of
Conferences,
that.
yep.
Been
Yep.
going to
Right,
them.
we haven't done
Yeah.
any of those.
Yeah, we haven't
Yeah.
done it.
Correct.
So the board has tightened their belt, yes.
That was my question.
Okay.
We're all doing that hard.
Yep.
Someday it would be nice if we could rejoin NISBA. They offer a lot to districts because of the state organization. Most districts do belong, but,
Yeah, and we'll discuss that at the reorg
Yeah,
meeting
right.
to see what kinds of services we might get from them and whether it's worth the expenditures, because it is quite costly to belong to that.
and if some can be partial or whatever, we can, because a lot of us do go to the meetings and we're the only ones that don't belong. It's kind of tough.
Okay, any other discussion on the budget? Okay, we've already approved this budget at a previous board meeting. So can I have a motion to adjourn this particular hearing? I don't know if any of our business officials have anything to add, or we're good to go? Okay, good to go. Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll make a
Okay. Mary and Jody second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, carried 7-0. Okay, now we'll move on to our regular meeting. We already did the pledge, so we don't have to do that. And so we'll start with the superintendent report.
Okay, I don't know why I put my mask back on. I did just want to take a couple of minutes just to go over the voting process for this year. It's different than last year, and Mrs. Lotz, our district clerk, I just want to thank her. She is our quarterback for this. She coordinates the entire vote, and there's a lot of nuances to it. It's not a simple task, and we still have some new, I guess, ways of doing business this year. So I'm just going to go over, if you'll indulge me a little bit here, just and also for the sake of anybody that might be watching. But so last year we had sent out absentee ballots to everyone we could. We're not doing that this year. School districts are not sending out absentee ballots en masse to everyone, but people can still qualify for an absentee ballot. I'm just going to go over the reasons under which somebody can qualify for an absentee ballot. Some of these are existing reasons that have been around for a while, but there is a new one as well. So if you're a patient in a hospital, and there's actually this, I'm actually reading right from the form, which is on our website as well. And Nicole, jump in if there's anything you want me to include that I miss on this or misspeak on too. So if you're a patient in the hospital, if you have an illness or a physical disability, if you're going to be on vacation outside of the area, which you can now do because travel restrictions have been lifted, I will be out of out of the area due to duties, occupation, business, or studies. So if you have to be away on business or school or something along those lines. If you're detained in a jail, awaiting action by a grand jury, awaiting trial, or confined in prison after conviction for an offense other than a felony, that's another reason that you can absentee ballot. And this is the kind of the new one now, which I'm hoping this is the last year that we have to worry about this, but if it's due to potential contraction of COVID-19, essentially, if, you have a, legitimate fear of contracting COVID-19, you can qualify for an absentee ballot. So, and the way that you go about doing that basically is it's on the website. So, I'm just going to go over, I've got a little cheat sheet here just to go over kind of how you would go about getting an absentee ballot if you were interested. So first, I just want to remind everyone that the budget vote is taking place on Tuesday, May 18th, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at East Senior High School. So that's the place we usually do it. It's over in the gym. And I just would ask, too, there's a couple of things. Just please, there's going to be some new rules, obviously. We ask that people wear masks when they come in and just maintain a social distance as well. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. But if you have any questions about this, any questions at all, please contact Mrs. Latza. Her phone number is 677-3136. Again, this is all on the district website if anybody has any questions about the vote or about absentee ballots. So essentially, you can go to the district website under the Board of Education, go to the annual school budget vote, and there are absentee ballot applications right there. You can print them up. A properly completed application must be received before an absentee ballot can be issued. So you have to apply before we can send one out to you. All right, so completed applications must be received at least 7 days before the vote. So that's May 11th. If the ballot is to be mailed, so if we're going to mail the ballot to the voter, or the day before the vote, which is May 17th, if the ballot will be issued to the voter in person. So if somebody were to somehow be able to come in person and get the ballot, they got to come in at least the day before the vote. So. All completed ballots must be received by 5 p.m. on May 18th. So that's the day of the vote. We have to have them by 5 p.m. So we'll ensure that we actually still have the big orange obnoxious drop box that is secure outside, attached to district office here. There's a camera right on it. It's a very secure drop box. So if anybody wants to drop things off there, 5 o'clock on May 18th, we will go and empty them out. So a few items too, just about the in-person voting. So again, we are doing in-person voting this year. All voters must wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth when voting. Anyone not wearing a mask will not be allowed to enter. Please do not vote in person if you are experiencing any COVID symptoms, and you can find that at the CDC website. We also have it on our own website too. If you're sick, please stay home, is what we would say. Please abide by all guidelines, rules, and signs when entering. We will have some directions and some signage and things like that to help you along. The gym is going to be set up to allow proper distancing and with the public safety in mind. So we will set things up. It's a big gym that we will make sure that we have ample space for people to be able to spread out in there. And just keep in mind, we really everybody's health and safety is our top priority here too. We want to make sure we have a good budget vote and board election, and just want to make sure that everybody stays safe. So that was a mouthful. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do, Matt. I just was thinking of something. The night before the election, you come down and you have somebody has some symptoms. They go to media care, they get the test, they're waiting on the results. Next day's the election. How would that person vote? How would they be able to vote? I'm just, we can maybe find an answer, but, without going there, because you don't know if you're going to be able to.
If you've gotten a test and you haven't gotten the result back yet, you should not show up to the vote. So unfortunately, if you're ill, you can't show up. Are you describing like somebody who has symptoms?
Just say the night before, just on the 17th, you went to media care because you thought maybe you had some symptoms. You take the test, you don't have the results yet.
Yeah.
But next day's the vote. I want to be able to cast my vote. How would that person be able to do it in a short turnaround time?
Yeah, they'd have to get to us the day before, but and I'm thinking the nightmare scenario is it's 8 o'clock at night
I know.
on the 17th, and you're feeling ill. So, the long and the short of it is we would not be a person in that situation. You'd be too late to get an absentee ballot, and you would not be able to show up if you were symptomatic.
Right.
So that's the tough part. So. Fortunately, I think we've had, people are pretty used to, these questionnaires because they're places of business and they kind of know the drill. So I think that's where somebody's experiencing symptoms, hopefully they'll look at that over anything else at this point. So.
All right.
Okay, any other questions on that? I did have just one other area I kind of wanted to address. So. Obviously, everyone's aware that the CDC and now the New York State Department of Health have issued some new guidelines or new guidance, basically, for bringing kids back into school more frequently. So we have our elementary students coming back, the 4 days a week right now, and that's actually going quite well, I would say. But secondary, school districts across the area, we're in an area of a high infection rate right now, and it has to be less than 100 positive cases per 100,000 people. So We haven't been at that. We were at like 350 or whatever, as recently as like probably a week and a half ago. That's been dropping, all right? I think yesterday we were around 177 or something along those lines. So in the event that that does continue to drop, I can tell you that our high schools and middle schools, we've been doing this planning as far as 3 feet is concerned for a little while now. This isn't a new conversation. It's something it's going to be kind of you ask the question, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? We've got, a limited amount of time left in the school year. So, but we are still planning at this point that, if it, happened, we would probably need about a week or so to get things organized, get desks kind of moved around. We're not doing that in advance, to be quite honest with you, because it's going to be disruptive. We're going to have to move, we're going to have to change up some schedules internally speaking, which is going to be disruptive to students and create, I would say, less than ideal situations, but obviously, priority, we still want our students back in session. But some of the things that we're just going to have to be able to consider here, I will tell you that, our high schools, both middle school, East Middle School, looking good at 3 feet. I will tell you, West Middle School is struggling in the 6th grade. 7th and 8th grade, they feel pretty confident. 6th grade, we're struggling there a little bit. It's tight. So there's the possibility that if we were to move in this direction and go ahead and start bringing kids back in an increased number of days, that West Middle 6th grade may not be able to participate in that. I'm preparing people. I know I've talked to some members of the board about this, and I believe I've even said this in a board meeting or two, but I just wanted to say that we've not been able to resolve that situation yet, despite our best efforts at this point. So the other thing too, I would talk about, I think we would be at the high schools right now, different structure, block scheduling, fewer changes throughout the course of the day for our high school teachers. I would anticipate our high schools would stay 5 days a week. Middle schools would likely, because they'd still be doing live casting, we would not be able to take live casting away at the secondary level, especially when you're probably talking about a matter of 3 to 4.5 weeks or something left. I just don't know that we could do it, to be quite honest with you, and it's also with a number of different classes, it wouldn't be able to happen. So I would still anticipate those teachers, and for different reasons in the elementary, but would still need additional time as planning. So you'd probably be looking at a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for the middle school programs. Some of the challenges that we're going to be encountering, some are similar to what the elementary is, what they're encountering. Lunches. Lunches are the Achilles heel. I think that's actually what the head of the UB School of Medicine said. Lunches are the Achilles heel because they have to stay at 6 feet. I've spoken to some of my colleagues in other districts that just aren't sure if they're going to be able to do this. We've been very creative at our elementaries. Kids, in some cases, might be having their lunches in hallways or under tents, in gymnasiums. We're really, everybody's pulling together to make this work. We really want this to be successful. So that's going to be, continue to be a struggle, but we're working through it. So you might see some more tents pop up around the district. Transportation, I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. I'd mentioned that was one of our areas of concern for the elementaries, and I will tell you that our transportation department, our staff that's working out there to help direct transportation and traffic flow out in the parking lots, the West Seneca Police, our parents, everybody has been very patient, very understanding. We don't have incidents of road rage in our parking lots. People are getting it. So I'm very appreciative, and I think people have been driving, which really does help to reduce our bus density. But still, some kids are taking the buses, so I think we have a nice balance going on right now. I'd like to see that continue. I would also say, too, at the high schools, fewer kids need to take the bus. In a lot of cases, they're getting rides or they're driving themselves. And the middle schools, too, it seems like they're working through that as well. So just some of the things. Some of the differences, though, and I just want to be very upfront with everyone about this, though. As I said in the last time we talked about the return, and this is not Erie County, this is New York State requirement, when they contact trace, right? So you have a positive case and they go through the contact tracing process, they still contact trace at 6 feet. So they're not, just because the CDC and the State Department of Health are saying it's okay for people to be 3 feet apart, not staff, adults still need to be 6 feet apart from each other and from students. But as far as students are concerned, they're still contact tracing at 3 feet, or 6 feet, I apologize. So the impact is that you don't have kids, the kids move around a lot. In middle school, they have 8 periods in a day. High school, 4 times they're switching things up. So just to look at that, they're interacting. So there is I guess my point in saying this, and I just want to be upfront with everyone, there is a greater potential for quarantine. Because in elementary, you've got 20 kids in a classroom, 22 kids in a classroom, and it's kind of the same kids that they're traveling with. So that's where they talk about cohorting. In the high schools and middle schools, there's a lot more moving pieces. And I'm not saying, if you've been following my emails every day, I send them out, and I do send those myself. Actually, Mrs. Flore does send them, but I type them, about our COVID numbers. Our infections, really, we're not seeing a ton of new infections. I think we had a 3-day stretch there where we had 0 new infections, which is fantastic. The past few days, it's been a couple at a time. In some cases, the people that haven't even set foot on our campus this year, we still report them because they're reflected in our dashboard. But, at the end of the day, we are trending in a good direction. I do want to say that. So But I just want to be upfront with people because, I was talking with a colleague of mine in another district, and, he had some concerns. He just said, geez, I've got a kid in high school, who might get quarantined right before a prom or right before a graduation ceremony or before an athletic event or something like that. So these are just, realistically speaking, things that we have to be able to factor in here, too. There's also, some of the conversations, too, the way we're going to have to structure some of the buildings for exam time as well. So, these are some of the conversations that we're having. AP exams are coming up, and, you do have to, utilize larger spaces and things like that. So we are planning. I guess my long-winded way of getting at this is, in the event that those rates do go down, please know that that's in the conversation and that I feel that we'll probably have the ability to return, the majority of our students into a substantial increase in the amount of days that they're in. But we also want to weigh in, too, it will be a substantial disruption to just everything. And you have to ask the question when this actually happens. If there's 3 weeks left in the year, or you have to ask, is it worth the disruption to our students' lives? And that's something we're going to have to weigh out. And I'm monitoring this closely. I'm going to be communicating with everyone and having these conversations. So, but I just know that as the numbers have been going down, I haven't been asked any questions by anybody yet, but I just thought I'd get out ahead of it a little bit and just point that out. So, okay. All right. I apologize. I know that was very long-winded. Does anybody have any questions about that or thoughts or anything? Okay. Obviously, it's not a ask now or forever hold your peace sort of thing. Let's continue the dialogue about this. And again, I have been and will continue as soon as tomorrow. I've been meeting with our secondary administrators who are very anxious to see kids. I will just tell you, as are our teachers, as are all of our clerks, because we like having the life in the buildings, all right, aside from the fact that this is professionally what we're dedicated to doing. So I've said my piece on that. So
You have to keep chasing that ball as they move the goal line.
yes,
So
yes, that's a nice analogy.
good luck with that. Today is National Teachers Day, so we want to give a shout out to all the teachers out there that have been doing such a wonderful job with providing the best education we can under these circumstances. So we appreciate that. And also Mother's Day is on Sunday, so to all the mothers out there, we want to wish a wonderful day to them. With the budget vote coming up and the school board elections, I just want to go through a couple of the responsibilities of the board, just so everybody's sure what our duties are. So our first duty is we hire this gentleman, Mr. Bystrak, we hire and we evaluate the superintendent. He is our only employee. And so we make sure we have the most qualified person in that position. We also make and revise constantly the district policies. So as we see a district policy is maybe outdated or outmoded, or the state laws have changed, then we are responsible for changing those. We also help to develop and adopt the budget that we heard today. And this board has been much more active in that budget process. And we have really pushed to have no budget or no increase in taxes this year because of all these crazy times that we're going through. But we've also been able to keep all the programming for the children. So that was our big priority this year. So we're glad to say that we were able to do that. So we are overseers of the district. We do not make decisions on the day-to-day operations of the school. That is Mr. Bystrak and his staff. That is his responsibility. And so I just want to make sure everybody understands what our role is in the district. We're also the link between the community and the superintendent, but that is like a side to what we do. That's not one of our basic functions. Okay, so and again, the vote is on the 18th at East Senior. We hope a lot of people show up and give us a positive vote so we can provide the programming for our students that we think they deserve. Also, on the 25th of May, we have a work session where we'll hear some more presentations. We've been hearing some wonderful ideas of what was going on in the different departments. On June 2nd, the NAF, our Finance Academy, is going to have a graduation ceremony at Clocks Grove. Ceremony is a loose term because it's going to be similar to the way we did the Students of Excellence. The students are going to come in, be honored. The board, as many Board of Education members can be there, or teachers, or whatever staff, and they will be honored, and then they will get a dinner to go. Also on the 8th, we have our Board of Education meeting, and that's where we will recognize the retirees from not only this year, but from last year also. So we hope all those folks show up. And again, this will be an in and out type ceremony that we have no big pictures being taken or no groups, just to say thank you to these people that have given a long time to our district. And then on the 9th, our other 3 academies will have their graduation at West Senior. They're smaller academies, and that will be from 5 to 8. Again, that's a in and out type thing. And then on June 28th, it will be this particular board's last work session. So those are some of the dates that were coming up and the responsibilities of the board. Does anybody have anything else
What about the graduations?
to add? The graduation, are those dates set? I have June 19th for West Senior and June 23rd at East Senior. Are those still?
Yep.
And both graduations are going to be at the East football field.
Diane, the rain dates are the day after, too.
Yes, right. The rain dates are the day after. Unfortunately, for West Senior, the day after is Father's Day. But what a better way
I
to
was just
spend
gonna say, how-
for your with your father than to be at your graduation.
Where else would you rather be?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. The West Senior, I think that is scheduled for 2 o'clock, and the East Senior is at 12 o'clock. I think those are the dates that
Yeah, they'll be
originally
sending
had.
out some official
But
communications.
yes,
as well.
everything will be sent out, and again, it's going to be limited seating as far as we know, but again, things change with
Things are evolving.
daily. Yeah, every day they change. So all the seniors will get information. The proms are being held. They're looking to expand some of the numbers that are going to the proms because of the change in all of the CDC requirements and the Erie County Health Department. I don't know, anything else?
Are we live streaming the graduations?
Yeah, I believe so, yes. Because we have the, at the stadium there, it's actually.
Yes, right,
yeah.
they've got the,
Will be.
they've got the
There'll be a big
cameras.
screen on the, I'll call it the Jumbotron, but it'll
Yeah.
also be live streamed, just so you can have out-of-town relatives or anybody that may not be a good
Grandparents or
idea for them to
whatever,
be
yeah.
there, or, yeah. So one of the benefits of having both graduations there.
So and the reason West Senior is going to the East Senior field is the West Senior field is not finished. So, tough to be in the mud for graduation. Okay, so those are some of the opportunities we're trying to give this senior class to make sure that they at least have some normalcy, some closure to their final year.
Diane, to add to some of the board responsibilities also is they approve recommendations for staff and tenure and stuff from the superintendent. So that is, we have to approve those.
Right,
Any
right.
financial things we approve and any hires we have to approve. So that's another responsibility to add to it.
Also, we reflect the community and the parents and their desires, and we let that be known publicly so that the superintendent and his staff can work on what the community would really like.
Okay.
Open communication.
Yes,
Liaison,
yeah,
you said
open
that.
communication
Yeah,
between
that's what
them.
you said.
But the 3 that I listed are, are 3, I want to say big, responsibilities as far as the state is concerned. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, we're going to, and we've started to add this again, to hear from the assistant superintendents as to what new is going on and what they're working on. So, who will be first? Mrs. Persico, are you going to be first? Mr. Savoni, Dr. Savoni is not able to be here tonight, but I think he said Mrs. Persico will maybe give a little bit of what he was going to say, or,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
there's some overlap, so.
Yes, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few updates. In addition to what I had reported out a couple weeks ago, we're still continuing all of that work as well. But a new opportunity that has come to light for us is working as part of a consortium with BOCES to apply for a learning technology grant. So this grant, if awarded, will enable us to complement our capstone project that we have slated for the fall, as well as increasing opportunities for professional development and technology infusion and integration within our classrooms across the district. So that's a really exciting opportunity. We are one of several districts that are partnering with BOCES on this consortium, so hoping that it gets approved. Also, again, we are continuing to work in collaboration with administration for the programs and in the HR department to recruit our teachers for our summer elementary program. The positions have been posted, so we are accepting applications for that. Again, we're offering an opportunity for our students who we have identified as needing the program in the summer, K to 5, on the east side and west side of town. Also, LEAP positions have been posted too for the LEAP program. We are continuing to collaborate with the programs to make sure that we have multiple opportunities for kids to be involved over the summer so that we don't have a regression or summer slide. Continuing our work with building principals and curricular facilitators and directors to develop remedial AIS programming at all of our levels, elementary, middle, and high. So we are really crafting those plans and working to develop any curricular writing that we need to do as a result over the summer so that we're ready to go in the fall. John Cervoni, Jackie Fowler, the secondary administrators and departmental representatives have been having meetings last week and this week to review our student course requests and also to ensure equity and balance of classes. And again, as I mentioned at our last meeting in the fall, we are looking to do a comprehensive overview of all of our course offerings so that we can see where we may excel, where we might want to bring it upwards so that we close those deficits and gaps. This is just kind of an exciting opportunity. Last week, I met with a group of educators from the Frontier School District in regards to our Seal of Biliteracy program. They are looking to implement that in their district, so we're looking for some help and information, and we are willing to work with them to help them with that. And lastly, continued collaboration and discussion with Bob Merkel, Jackie Fowler, and our high school principals and counseling department chairs to draft potential pilot for CDOS program. So Bob actually is currently working to develop an FAQ, so that will help us with the process in implementing that for the fall. So that is all I have. If you have any questions for me.
What is the grant again?
It is the Learning Technology Grant. Nice. So it's really trying to infuse technology and innovative curriculum. So it really goes hand in hand with our capstone project. Mm-hmm. And actually the tech integrator from BOCES, Melanie Kitchen, who has been working with us extensively to help implement this, get it off the ground running, is really the one who's pioneering it. So it really goes hand in hand. It'll be great.
Nice.
Yeah, professional development, technology.
Yeah.
It'll be really a great opportunity for us. And as part of our district, the parochial private independent schools are also eligible to participate with us. So there are a few of them who have signed on to come along with us for that journey.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Always looking for new opportunities for our students.
Just to elaborate a little bit on something she had said in terms of the CDOS offering, so that really is work-based, work experience right here in the buildings. Kids get they have 54 hours, I think it is, of work experience, and that could be a job that they currently have, but that can actually count as a credit toward their graduation. Actually, it's good for them because they're getting credit for some of the work that they're doing, but we're also looking to be able to create opportunities right here in district for kids to be able to get work experience within our own buildings too. So, it's something that, I think our district had something years and years ago, but we're looking to be able to bring back again too. So just exciting stuff. So.
I'm not sure if you want to speak to this. She got you anyway. So I know we're looking to offer help for kids over the summer. We're working on that. Is that by invite only, or is that if I just think my kid could use the help, I can reach out? Where are we at with that? Does that my question make sense?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. Now, we're still going to have our extended school year program, so students that might have special education needs that tend to be a little profound, they actually host a site right here in district. So that's going to happen for some of the kids that, are in special education that might have some significant needs. With the program that we're developing here, it's going to be based essentially on the recommendation of the educators. So we're looking at teachers working with administrators and related service providers. They take multiple points of data and look and meet as a group to make recommendations for kids to be able to go. If a parent was interested in having their child to be able to continue in some sort of summer program and they weren't recommended for that program, I would suggest like the LEAP program, which is a phenomenal program. It runs actually parallel with it too. So there'll be a few different opportunities and offerings for kids to be able to participate in some sort of summer learning program. So.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just thinking, like, again, hypothetically, say I don't, no one from the district calls me and says, hey, Ed, your kid might need help in this area. I should just assume they're,
Yeah, I mean,
at least at the point where they're comfortable with them moving up type situation.
Yeah.
Not that I'm looking just to take a hands-off approach, but, I'm getting at, like, if there's no official notice, then the kids have been assessed at some point. Like, not assessed like a one-day thing, but
yeah, you're asking. No, you're asking a good question, Ed. I mean, I essentially, we as as a society, to be honest with you, understand that kids may not necessarily, in terms of some metric, whatever metric we're using, or multiple metrics that we're using, may not be at a certain level. In a normal year, you might say, geez, that might be grounds for let's talk about some sort of intervention or remediation or retention or whatever it is. But considering it's everybody kind of together. We've taken a different approach to that, as have other districts as well. So I don't want to say no news is good news, but if teachers have concerns, they're going to be reaching out. Principals, teachers, they reach out. They have been. It's that process. We already had structures in place that were responsive to that through like child study teams and things. But they will be and have been reaching out to families, both orally. I mean, having meetings and things. I mean, so that's I guess if you're worried, hey, does my child need a summer program? Any parent could pick up the phone and call and talk to the teacher and say, hey, where do you think they stand in terms of, in relation to other kids or any weaknesses they might have? I would say, there's going to be, there'll be a point where you say, okay, we've got X number of kids that we're going to be sending to this program. It doesn't mean that everybody else may not benefit from some sort of, summer work or whatever it is. I know that our teachers, especially at the elementary level in so many cases, will talk to their, the parents of their students and say, hey, this is some of the things I think I'd want to work on. They'll be okay, but I make sure they're reading at least a book every couple of weeks or 2 books over the summer, something like that, just to keep in practice and keep going.
And I don't want to dissuade anyone from asking, but basically, it's it's kind of invite only. But if you're concerned at all, you can reach out. And
Always. Always. I will say, I mean, honestly, if a parent is concerned in any year, pick up the phone. But I would say that that's going to be, that's important. I can tell you, actually, I just happened to speak with a parent the other day who had some great insight, on their own child's functioning, which I will tell you that the teachers and the administrator in the building took very seriously and just working on a plan to be able to help address some of the issues. I mean, it really comes back down to it. And at the elementary level in particular, not to say secondary is not that way, but it just comes down to the communication, that back and forth between the teacher and the parents. So,
Okay.
Matt, if I could just add.
Please do,
I think it's just important to note too that we are going through some procedures and processes right now that we will be embedding remediation within the curriculum next year. So that, if you weren't part of any particular program this summer, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't get attention to the deficits and the skills that you might be portraying as a result of the current pandemic situation and or other reasons. So we are working to embed that within curriculum for next year as well.
yeah, from a curricular standpoint, which is something everybody gets, but also to beef up our AIS services as well. That's another, our academic intervention services too. So specifically, I mean, one of the areas that we're targeting pretty heavily is, honestly, it would be between reading and math at the elementary level, so.
I think we need to offer more trade courses for our kids for the high school.
You should see the requests for BOCES next year, Jan.
Yeah, we went from
Yeah,
what?
we need-
We went from 47 to 164 to 216 this year with BOCES.
Wow. Really neat.
Quite a
mean,
few, yep.
It's being done. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
Well, there's.
it's in the works.
Yeah, they have 39 some of the stuff our academies So, but
I mean,
there's
our
other
P-TECH
things.
program, our things that we've done this,
Zoology,
we
legal,
need-
there's a
yeah.
ton of things that are,
Requests are up to what amount?
The old days, you know,
216
216?
for next year.
Just the
Yeah.
initial request?
Yeah.
The first year was 43, and I think we were 163 last year, and I think when John sent the numbers the other day, we're 216.
16,
Are
yeah.
we discussing that at some point? Just to-
Yeah, oh, we're gonna go over it.
And you know, it used to be we had industrial arts and all those things that the kids really were learning things from. And I think within our own house there, we could offer more trade courses also. It happened again this week. We had the plumber for something in our house, and he said to me, "Why don't you offer more things for kids in school?" And I said, "Oh, please, we're trying," you know.
Well, we have the
But,
BOCES,
they
but
can't find
those,
workers. They
yeah.
cannot find workers.
It's been a 3-year project that we've been working on.
Right, and those vocational
expand that.
programs in the individual schools are very expensive. That's why Buffalo used to have, I worked in Buffalo for years, and that's why they had tons of vocational programs, and they've had to scale them back because of the cost. That's why we send the students to BOCES,
I mean,
because they provide that service for us.
in-house, we couldn't expand. It seems like we could expand
No,
some things
you
in-house.
could not have a school where we had a plumbing program. There is so much involved, so much equipment and everything else. There's no way that you could, have that. If you want to see what the program looks like, you would have to go like to McKinley and just see the amount of space and the expense for equipment to do it in-house. And that's why we do it to BOCES, because they do it more economically for the number of students that we're sending there.
I mean, we do have band saws in the middle school, and they do
right,
have some
right.
woodworking.
yeah, still do that.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, there are some hands-on trades, but I think like anything, what we've touched about, it's to give them that little touch to see if they want to do that or not when they get to the high school.
Yep.
So, and I think that's more or less with the home economics and the other things that we're trying to strive towards, getting towards that. So, I mean, it's a program that we've been invested in for 3 years, that we've watched grow. And I think, the students that are going, I'm excited that we're at 216.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know,
that's
I mean,
amazing.
it is. And I think what's happened is these students are more accountable, and they're more being able to stay focused because they are achieving something that they want to do. They're just not bored in the school. They're doing something that they want to work with their hands, or cosmetology, or sports medicine, or dentistry,
Yeah, Mary, you're right, they've increased their offerings too, I would
Yes,
say.
there's
Oh,
39,
yeah.
Well,
yes.
they need to expand
Yes.
that, yeah.
But see, also too, I think it's fiscally smart of the parents and the students to realize that they can get the trades and then go off to a,
Two-year school
community
or
college
community
to
college.
finish that versus spending 4 years in college and not wanting to do that.
I'll
Like
tell
you
that the
said,
parents
it
that are
makes a
changing their
decision.
majors
Right.
in the middle of the school year, and you're paying for that. Daughter was in Life Science Academy. She's now going to BOCES for early childhood development. So she's
Right.
made the change to go to BOCES. So I'm saying that it is opportunities that, these kids are now going to be able to have, and I think
Right.
it's wonderful.
Yeah, we've had students from our academies who have, completed the academy and said, you know what, I love the program, but that's not what I want to do the rest of my life. As well as my BOCES kids do the same thing. They'll finish it, and when I go to their, legal debate stuff, and they'll say, I love the opportunity, I'm glad I did it, but now I'm going into a different field in college.
sometimes it's about figuring out
So
what you
I
don't
think
wanna do.
that's What you
Right.
said, and
That's-
give them
that's
that
valuable.
opportunity.
When you
very
really,
valuable.
when you come down to it, how many people do you know that go in for mass media, come out as, an RN? When you get in there, you find out what you really want to do,
Right.
but meanwhile, you're paying for that.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we can keep this at this level, there's nothing wrong with a doctor that can build a deck. And I think that's what we've got to try to be able to, is really figure out and try to give them as much as examples and tools and possibly to fill their own belt of life.
Right, and we have these opportunities, especially like, that's why, Bob Merkel was talking about going down into the middle schools, because some of these students have to make a choice, but
Yeah,
for
P-TECH,
ninth grade,
yeah.
for their P-TECH programs.
Well, P-TECH started at 8th grade, right? Because that's a 5-year program.
No, it starts in ninth.
Ninth, but it goes
But
up
they
to
have
like
But they
grade
have to
five.
make it in 8th grade, though.
They have to
No,
make
they
the
started
decision.
in
The
ninth,
decision.
but-
End of
yeah.
8th, yeah.
I still
Yeah.
think we can have some of these in-house, though, and we need.
You're not going to
Well,
be, Jan, the expense is astronomical. You have to go and look at some of the Buffalo programs that do the whole program, like the plumbing and the electrical and that, it's just very, very expensive.
But I'm glad our students are taking that opportunity to try that program. So that's amazing
yes, yeah.
that we jumped up that high in those few years.
Yeah, I mean, I will say and I think it's amazing too. It does come at a cost, with our business officials are acutely
Right.
aware of that there, but, you know, it's, yeah.
I know it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, is there that many slots too?
That's
Because,
what I'm saying. I think we're
well,
limited
the
sometimes.
BOCES are, some of them are limited depending on, because there's other districts that utilize
Yeah.
them. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, as
Yeah,
many
limits.
students as possible can get in to some of those
We've had pretty good
slots.
success, I would say.
Yes.
I can't think of too many of our students that have been just flat out turned away, and I think in situations like that, BOCES is pretty good at steering them in
Good,
something that might be
good.
comparable.
I'm glad, because
So-
they do have the opportunity, and I know they.
They're very
they've been in-
accommodating.
And, yes, they're very, very accommodating too.
So again, we're able to provide all these extra services, find a way to give the students that are more hands-on, give them a place to work on their desires, so. Any other discussion on that? Okay, Mrs. Fowler,
Yep.
do you want to give your presentation?
Hi, everyone. I have some highlights to share tonight, and similar as Mrs. Persico said, some of the things that we talked about the last couple of weeks are continuing. So those are, ongoing as we continue to wrap up this school year. One thing I did just want to focus on is that we're continuing to review our special education projections for the next school year. Meetings are starting to wrap up. There are still some that are occurring, so we're continuing to monitor that. And really looking at the needs of our students with disabilities across the district. And how are we programming for those students? How are we providing necessary services for them? And how are we able to manage our continuum of services? Because in the past, I've shared with you that we have a wide variety of services and programs for our students, which is fantastic. We also have to manage all of those programs and services. I've been working collaboratively with Mr. Winak, our Director of Special Education, our principals, our department leaders, Dr. Savoni and Mrs. Persico, also with that lens to really look at staffing and equity of those programs in some balance. So what might be available is available to all students, and how in which we're supporting those students might vary, but yet the common goal is that we're supporting our students. Also looking at that from a lens of efficiency, as I think I have shared in the past as well. There are some times where we may need to look at what we do offer for our students, similar to what Mrs. Persico said also about the curriculum, and how in which we're supporting those students. Special education is a large driver of staffing, so programs and services are a large driver of that we want to make sure we're being supportive, but yet efficient and effective as well. Continuing with some ongoing collaboration between the business office and the special education and pupil services office. We have students that change programs at this point in time. They exit programs. We have students who leave one area and go to another area. For example, they may be leaving a charter school or leaving a parochial school, and how in which that impacts both enrollment as well as kind of programming and services. We talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of working with our district nurse coordinator, Mrs. Spagnolo, and our high school administrators and teams regarding these upcoming high school events. It's awesome that we have the opportunities for some of these high school events, but I think Mrs. Bear said it quite well. The goal line keeps moving, and so we were all planned for prom and all planned for graduation in one way, and those things have changed in a good way that they've changed. So just continuing to work with them about processes and procedures and the protocols for those events, and the things in which that the school has to collect and be aware of and have in hand prior to students really participating and attending those events. Minimizing that so the day of the event or the night of the prom, we're not worrying about vaccinations and COVID tests and all of that. So really working to put some processes and procedures in place for that. Everyone's been great because we all just really want it to happen, so we're going to do whatever we can to make it happen, but making sure that the necessary health and safety protocols are all in place, and we're moving forward on that. Similarly to what I think some of you experienced at Clocks for the Students of Excellence, where Mrs. Spagnolo was there, she collected the forms, she was a part of that process. We're really looking at being able to to support our buildings and our students so that they can attend those events. Just want to add what Mrs. Persico said about the CDOS. The CDOS is another component that brings that work and employability skills, and it's for all students. It's for students with disabilities as well as general education students. So really looking at developing that, because there are many kids that may need to use that as a pathway to graduate, and looking at a variety of different ways in which that they can earn those hours. So really looking at that, and it just kind of lends to the conversation we all just had about the VOCES programs. And those are things we're looking at doing in-house as best as we can, and some of the
Your point.
job-related tasks to be in-house. Thanks.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you very much. As you can see, we're very busy getting ready for next year. Is there any public here? We didn't receive any questions on the Board of Education. Is there any public that needs to speak about anything? I think we only have one reporter here, but okay. All right, so I won't have to read those rules. Okay, could I have a motion to accept all the personnel for the classified, and so we have some resignations, we have some personal leaves, a couple of appointments for jobs that we already have approved. For the summer programs, we have our administrators that we are approving, coaching for community ed, for our before and after school, substitutes. We're always looking for substitutes. For our musical, for the pre-K facilitator, and for the mentor appointments and any of the reports. So can I have a motion to accept all of those?
I'll move.
Okay, Mrs. Bussey, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Siebert. Any discussion on those?
Why are the musicals 20 to 21? Is that last year?
Wait a minute. Okay.
What page are coming up? So it would have been this school.
Yeah, it's for the musical.
No, because is this
We-
putting them behind? I just wondered why it says 2021
What
instead
year
of.
is this?
This is 2021, yeah.
The school year.
The-
I think it encompasses the school year.
Right. And I think they perform the duties at the musical, and now we're just paying them because we didn't know who.
This is post, huh?
Right,
Right,
right.
this isn't looking
Yes.
forward to
It's
that.
not,
It's
it's,
Depending on what we're
it's,
talking about, yeah.
if you
Yeah.
show up, then
I
we'll
just
pay you.
wondered myself.
Yeah,
But that was just recent. That
Yeah.
was-
yes, right, right.
So this is not looking forward
Yeah.
to next year, this is,
No,
Paying 'em.
it's for the
That's
musical
all right.
that they did virtually.
right, and
Yeah.
it was nice. It was
Yes,
nice.
it's very nice. Okay, any other discussion on those? Okay, can I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried 6-0. And Mrs. Pesha had to leave early. Okay, then for new business, we have a donation, $1,577.
Reports, Diane.
Don't,
We didn't add reports yet. You guys-
did we do reports? No. Oh, okay. All right, so we have reports, all our minutes, our special ed committees. Then we have a donation of
That's nice.
$1,577 from the Community Foundation to benefit the scholarship fund. So it's always good to get
Yeah. Thank you.
scholarships for students, so we thank that fund for doing that. And then the agreement with Young and Wright, who are our architects for our capital improvement projects. We have that, and we've set a date for the reorganizational meeting for Tuesday, July 6th. We have to have that in I think the first 10 days of July, so that meeting has been set. And then we have all the financial reports, the investments, the treasurer's report, all the budget transfers and the revenues. And so can I have a motion to accept 5 through 7?
I'll move.
Okay. Mrs. Dalbo, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Kwiatkowski, any discussion on those? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried 6-0. Okay, and again, we don't have any public here, so we don't have to do the public rules. For the Board of Education discussion, do we have anyone that wants to bring up any topic that we have not discussed today? Anyone? Okay. The only thing I would like to say, I'd like to thank the Finance Department for the wonderful job, particularly Mr. Thiel, who just came on, what, a month ago? Has it been a month?
I think like the 14th.
So it's
Coming
only,
up to it.
yeah, like 3 weeks. So we want to thank the Finance Department for all the hard work to bring all the budget to fruition and to adhere to the board's wishes of a 0 tax increase. So that's, I know that was a little bit of a discussion there, but we persevered. And so we'd like to thank them for all their hard work. Any other discussion? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Okay, Mr. Kwiatkowski, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Siebert, all in favor? Okay, any discussion? I don't know why, but all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Carried 6-0. Everybody have a wonderful evening. And again, we wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day.
Yep, happy
And
Mother's Day.
thank the teachers.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of our teachers.
Yep, Teachers Day, yep.